Hej och varmt välkomna till ännu ett avsnitt av t.ex. Lunch and Learn.
Det är jag som är Gustav.
Och det är jag som är Anna, era värdar för denna månatliga webbinarserie. Där vi tar upp spännande och aktuella ämnen inom IT och digital marknadsföring och allt däremellan. Nu börjar jag ju tappa lite ordningen här i hur många avsnitt vi faktiskt kört. Och det börjar kännas som rutin det här. Vilket är ju väldigt roligt tycker jag. Att vi har kommit igång.
Verkligen.
Hur känns det för dig Gustav?
Ja, men jag kan nog bara instämma på det. Det känns som vi fått rullning på de här Lunch and Learn-webbinaren. Och varje månad så är det ett nytt koncept eller nytt tema. Superintressant och bara för oss att lyssna in på också. Sen är det ju väldigt roligt också att det har blivit så många deltagare varje månad återkommande.
Och vi har fått jättehärlig respons och det tackar vi för också. Och hoppas att ni vill fortsätta lyssna på oss framöver. Och det ämnet som vi kommer att beröra idag, det är ju också då återigen ett ständigt aktuellt ämne. Och det handlar om AI och hur du i praktiken kan nyttja AI i din verksamhet och i ditt jobb. Inom försäljning och kundsupport. Och vi kommer visa då konkreta use case hur man skulle kunna göra detta. Men AI det är ju ett stort och brett ämne och så därför så har vi ju liksom lite blandat ner i att hur man använder det då i praktiken är ju det som är mest intressant egentligen. Så Gustav, hur nyttjar du AI i ditt jobb?
Bra fråga. Nej, men i min umgängeskrets privat så pratas det om AI hela tiden. Man tipsar varandra om ny teknik och nya appar som kan användas som bygger på AI-teknik. Som kan effektivisera din vardag och så vidare. Superspännande. Men jag vet ju också om i de här diskussionerna att det är svårt att föra över det till att faktiskt använda det i sitt arbete och få någon typ av effekt och värde utifrån det. Det behövs mer ramar tror jag framöver.
Har du upptäckt något ställe där du faktiskt kan nyttja AI i och med att du jobbar ju inom marknadsföring så...
Ja, precis. Jag jobbar ju väldigt brett, men i mitt marknadsarbete så tar jag absolut hjälp av olika typer av AI-verktyg för att effektivisera mitt arbete och jag tycker att det funkar bra. Men jag vet ju att jag har skrapat på ytan bara när det kommer till AI. Så jag vet ju att det finns mycket mer att hämta. Men jag vet ju också om att man behöver lära sig det först för att kunna använda det på ett bra sätt. Så det är väl egentligen min take på det.
Och det är ju och lite så som vi lyfter här, det är ju vissa skrapar på ytan och andra har ju kommit längre och jag hörde senast förra veckan chefredaktören på Resumé som pratade om att det just nu pågår en slakt inom reklambranschen. Hon använde faktiskt det uttrycket där man nyttjar AI för bland annat till modelljobb eller modeller då, så man tar fram material kring det då. Men även inom produktionen där vissa byråer idag till och med säger att de anställer inga nya medarbetare på grund av att de använder AI istället. Så det är ju både lite skrämmande utveckling på ett sätt men också om man kan ta hand om detta på ett bra sätt, den här tekniken, så kan ju det bli en effekt som gör att det också blir en positiv utkomst av detta förhoppningsvis.
Ja, nej, men jag tror verkligen det är nyckeln ligger mycket i att lära sig det för att använda det på ett bra sätt framåt.
Bra, men och då tänker jag att innan vi kör igång och pratar om detta spännande ämne så behöver vi ta upp lite praktiska saker också såklart.
Så är det. Och som alltid så har ni en chatt till höger om er. Använd gärna den, ställ era frågor så ska vi vara så behjälpliga vi kan. Sen i slutet av det här webbinariet så kommer Daniel berätta om en utbildning som t.ex. kör tillsammans med Decisions nu i maj i Stockholm. Jag berättar inte mer än så utan häng kvar till slutet så kommer ni få veta mer.
Spännande. En cliffhanger.
En cliffhanger.
Härligt.
Sen också så har ni de här symbolerna nere till höger. Använd gärna dem. Ge oss en tumme upp eller en like så ger det oss lite bekräftelse, också våra talare, Daniel här idag. Det uppskattar vi. Webbinariet spelas in, så vi skickar ut det här i efterhand. Och med det sagt så tänker jag att vi drar igång och så lämnar vi över till Daniel Sundler här på Sitak.
Ja, tycker jag.
Varsågod Daniel.
Ja, tack så mycket för det Gustav. Idag ska vi ta oss en närmare titt på hur AI inte bara håller på att förändra vår vardag utan rent av står i begrepp att revolutionera sättet vi bygger vår affärsverksamhet på. Jag heter Daniel Sundler och arbetar med automation och no-code-plattformar här på Sitak. Jag kommer vara er värd och moderator för den här delen av dagens samtal. Artificiell intelligens har under de senaste åren inte bara blivit en trend utan den har verkligen förändrat sättet vi arbetar på. Vi har sett hur AI successivt integreras i våra arbetsflöden, i våra affärsprocesser och den har onekligen blivit en oumbärlig resurs för väldigt många företag och organisationer världen över. Från automatisering av rutinuppgifter till avancerad dataanalys. AI erbjuder en helt ny dimension av effektivitet och precision och den här teknologin har inte bara potentialen att förbättra produktiviteten utan den öppnar också nya dörrar både till innovation och till kreativitet. Och genom att förstå hur AI förändrar vårt sätt att arbeta så kan vi bättre utnyttja dess fördelar och anpassa oss till den ständiga och snabba utveckling som vi befinner oss i. Men frågan kvarstår. Hur går vi från att använda AI sporadiskt till att göra den till en integrerad och självklar del av vår verksamhet? Hur kan vi säkert utnyttja vår befintliga data och hur kan vi koppla samman våra egna system och applikationer med avancerade AI-verktyg som ChatGPT och på riktigt börja dra nytta av fördelarna med AI på ett enkelt och säkert sätt? För att ge oss lite perspektiv och konkreta exempel på dessa frågor så har vi alldeles strax nöjet att välkomna Derek Hyppa som är Head of Revenue Operations på Decisions. Och för er som inte vet vad Decisions är så kan jag berätta att det är en oerhört kraftfull automationsplattform som bygger på no-code-teknologi. Och vill man veta mer om Decisions eller no-code för den delen så är det bara att klicka sig in på Sitaks hemsida och läsa mer där. Och Derek kommer givetvis berätta mer om Decisions också alldeles strax. Sitak har varit strategisk partner till Decisions sedan 2019. Derek kommer dela med sig av Decisions strategi och hur de initialt integrerade AI i sin verksamhet. Hur började man och med vad? Han kommer också prata en del om varför just Decisions är en så bra plattform att bygga detta med. Och det är säkert många där ute som funderar en hel del på hur ni ska börja använda AI. Jag menar, alla använder sig av AI och ingen vill ju hamna efter givetvis. Så vi är övertygade om att det är dags för fler företag att börja utforska AI i sin affärsverksamhet och att tidigt identifiera möjligheter och utmaningar är helt avgörande för hur väl man kommer lyckas med sin AI-strategi. Och idag kommer vi alltså titta närmare på hur man kan göra detta i praktiken. Derek kommer guida oss igenom några olika use case där Decisions själva använder sig av AI. Vi hoppas att vi med dessa kan inspirera men förhoppningsvis också väcka lite nya tankar och idéer hos er. Tekniken finns där redan uppenbarligen så det handlar egentligen bara om att hitta rätt användningsområden som verkligen ger oss nytta och effekt i vår verksamhet. Men nog pratat för min del, låt oss istället bjuda in dagens huvudgäst och eftersom Derek sitter på Decisions huvudkontor i Virginia Beach i USA så har vi tv-kockat lite och spelat in det här samtalet tidigare i veckan och det kommer här. So, it's a great pleasure for me to introduce Mr. Derek Hyppa. He is Head of Revenue Operations at Decisions, a leading provider of a cutting-edge no-code platform integrated with advanced AI capabilities. So, welcome Derek and thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Yeah, thank you, Danielle. I appreciate the introduction. Looking forward to some of the use cases that we're going to show today.
Again, pleasure to have you, Derek. Could you please share a few words about yourself and also a few words about Decisions, perhaps, for those who doesn't know what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. So here, I'm going to share my screen really quick. Kind of give you guys a little walkthrough of what Decisions does. So, a little bit about me. My name is Derek Hyppa. I run our revenue operations department here at Decisions. I work really with our sales and marketing team with a big focus of data. So with that, we brought in a lot of different AI use cases here at Decisions. But a little bit about Decisions, we're a workflow rules engine all built on a no-code visual platform. There's really three main components about Decisions. It's our rules engine. So we have customers that use us for like medical claims processing, insurance quote to cash, and mortgage processing. And you can kind of see a visual of what our rules engine looks like. In addition to that, another really area of focus is something we call extend and expand. There's all these big tools such as SAP and Salesforce that, do some type of job. But there's not always a lot of customization that you could do within those tools. So you're able to use Decisions on the back end to kind of help those processes within these large providers. The large provider would do 80% of the work, while Decisions could do essentially 20%. And then really the last piece is kind of like our orchestration layer. So a lot of things that I'm going to show you today are around the orchestration layer, meaning that we integrate with all these different systems and can do all these things on the back end. And we integrate pretty seamlessly with a lot of different tools such as ChatGPT, Google Vertex, Salesforce, and so forth. So that's a little bit about me, a little bit about Decisions, and then, we'll dive more into these use cases.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Derek. So let's head on and take a look at the use cases that you will present for us today. So if we look at the first use case about building an RFP chatbot with AI using your old RFPs. For me as a salesperson, I'm really interested in this particular use case. I know how much time and effort it normally takes to deal with RFPs or RFIs for that matter. They're usually very extensive. They are usually they require a lot of manual work. And I know that Decisions has a solution that saves time searching for the answers and also helps with the responses. So can you show us a little bit how it works?
Yeah, absolutely. So, RFP, request for a quote, or request for purchase, excuse me. Essentially, it's really taking like a bunch of questions from a prospect. And the goal, for someone to actually like become a customer, they have to go through a series of questions just to kind of vet maybe the software itself. Essentially, the prospect will provide us with a list of questions that we need to answer. So what I will actually do is show you example of how we built this within Decisions. I do apologize. I got jets in the background, so if you hear the noise, I apologize.
No worries.
All right. So, for example, RFP. This is our Decisions platform. This is a dashboard that we built within it, and the goal here is to submit a new RFP. But a little bit background before I actually jump into that. I'm gonna show this. So this is kind of like setting up what I'm getting ready to show at the moment. But we have our RFP, a list of a series of questions that need to get answered by the prospect to move forward. Sometimes these questions, there could be hundreds of them. And we have to dedicate resources and time for someone to go through that series of questions and answer them manually. What we built here in Decisions is essentially a way to automate that by using ChatGPT. We have the ability to upload a file, a series of questions, and this model is able to automatically answer those questions to the best of its ability. I'll walk you through how that works, but that's just a little bit background. Daniel, do you have any questions about it?
Yeah, I'm actually quite curious about how do you make sure that the chatbot understands and answers the questions correctly? Essentially, can you trust the chatbot?
Yeah, that's a great question. This technology like ChatGPT has evolved over the last year or so. But essentially, when we upload the file and it answers the questions, it gives us a confidence score. So that confidence score is essentially how close of a match the question that's on this file matches something that's in our database. So there still needs to be a human in the loop here, but it will give you a confidence for saying how close of a match the question that's on this Excel sheet matches what's in our current database. And I'll kind of show you that as we go through it.
Great.
So what I'm going to do, going back to our dashboard, as a sales rep, they have the ability to submit a new RFP. From here, the sales rep would provide their name, essentially what team they're associated with here. So decisions, we have a couple different teams, and what company this is for. They would select the due date, and essentially they could say what type is it. Is it RFP, RFI, like you mentioned, or even like a security questionnaire. So this thing is robust. And then they would have the ability to upload that file. Once that file has been submitted, there would be, this would go to our sales engineering team, and really they're just kind of validating the file. So they could download the current one that was uploaded by the sales rep. They would check the format, and then they have the ability to upload a new one. And the reason why, we just want to make sure it's in the same format. Sometimes these RFPs come in various ways. There's a specific format that needs to go into this model. So by clicking proceed, it's now using that list of questions. There's about like 4 to 5 on this example, and I'll show you what that looks like once this process is done. But it's trying to automatically answer them for us on the back end. And once this has completed, I'll get a new assignment form that shows me the results, which I would then be able to download and send back to the prospect and make any changes. So this may take a second to run. Like I said, it's going through each question, trying to get these things answered at the moment. And then, once it's finalized, we'll be good to go.
Yeah, I mean, in the meantime, how was the user feedback? I mean, have any modifications or improvements been implemented, in response to the user interactions so far?
Yeah, I mean, we've had this live for, probably about like a month or two now. So, this saves a ton of time. I mean, imagine just trying to go through all of these different questions every single time and trying to get them answered. I mean, it's a very tedious task. You have to put dedicated resources to it, and just depending on availability, that could take a couple days. Well, this thing is almost immediately able to give you answers in real time. So, for example, the Excel sheet I uploaded had four questions. You could see those questions right here. So, how scalable is your product? Can we audit the rules and decisions, etc. So the chatbot, once we uploaded it, it was able to find similar questions asked in the past and be able to give us a response. And then it gave us a confidence score. So when you see the confidence score, it's saying how close was this question to something that we've had answered previously in our database. So it's a 90% accuracy rate. So this kind of gives us that confidence that, this is the right answer. But in this form, I'm validating it. So as the sales rep, I could say, okay, here's the question. This is how the bot answered it. I do have the ability to make changes to the text just in case if maybe, something is incorrect or I want to update it. But you could also see the top 4 related answers to this single question. So it brings back the topmost answer based on the score, but also will provide us additional information if found. So we have the ability to, update this question itself. But for this example, I could say we're happy. This all looks good. There could be hundreds of questions. In our example, there's only 4. So what I'm going to do is hit proceed. And then now here's the final review. Same thing. It's really just doing a last double check. I could hit proceed, and then say these are new questions. this process also allows me to upload them to this database that can then be used in another RFP.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hit done, and now I have this new file, which I actually am going to open up. So here's the new file. These were the 4 original questions. And then now you can see here's those answers that we were just reviewing. So imagine if this is hundreds, this completely streamlines the whole process.
Yeah, there's a really nice use case, Derek. And it would have been interesting to hear also what value this has added to your business. Of course, the most obvious one is the time-saving part, but is there anything else that you can see?
Yeah, I mean, we're able to now keep records of all of our RFPs in one central location. So before, we've always had these spreadsheets that were scattered. There wasn't really any central location. So by implementing this process, like you said, this has saved a ton of time and resources on our sales and security teams. But in addition, we're able to now collect more and more answers to make these models better over time. There's a lot of value in being able to save time. A lot of our security team can focus on bigger tasks as well.
Yeah, fantastic. So thanks, Derek. I know you have worked on another use case that is essentially built the same way as the one you just showed us. I'm talking about the chatbot in Slack. So could you please tell us more about that one and maybe do a quick demonstration of that one as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Here, let me share my screen again so we can kind of walk through this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of set this up so there's a little bit of understanding of how this works. So really, we built a chatbot that's communicating with our Salesforce data. We have something called use cases. This is how customers of ours use our product. We're a software development product, and people use us for various different reasons. So we have a team that works with our customers and collects this information. So really the goal, here's an example of what it looks like, but the goal is to have a way to chat with the data using advanced search capabilities. So it's almost the exact same as the RFP, but just slightly different. Now we're communicating with our own data. So you could ask questions and it's able to give you answers. So there's really 2 pieces to this, right? The first piece is like collecting the data from an external data source. This could be Salesforce, it could be like CSV data. Really, there's endless possibilities of where this data comes from. You clean it, you then take that text and you put it through ChatGPT's model. It's an embedding model, and you store that in a vector database. So first piece of it. And then in return, on the other side, you use some type of UI. In our example, we're using Slack. This could be Teams. It could be a custom UI. But you ask questions, and it goes through that similar process, but then it tries to pull back the most relevant information and posts the message back to Slack. So what I'm going to do is actually bring over Slack. So this is a test case, but really the goal here is you have the ability to, at the bot, this is how it gets triggered. And essentially you type in a use case that you're looking for. Again, you're chatting with data. This could be any data. In our case, it's our use case data. So by clicking enter, what happens is it makes a call to decisions, and then it's going through this process. So as you can see, it just responded. And we're kind of, nulling out the account name. So this typically would say account name. But when I searched rules engine, you can see it returned 24 results. And it gave me a bunch of different information. So you can see the description, industry, how close of a match this original text is to essentially this description here. So this thing's really powerful. This thing here at Decisions is used every single day. I mean, a lot of different people use it for various reasons, but it's really simple to do, and you can see how quick it returns the results. It's in a matter of a couple seconds. It's able to query a database And it's not your normal like SQL database where you're saying, if this contains, like this is an advanced search algorithm that's able to pull back results based on similarity between this text and this text. So it's very good for text-based type of queries.
Yeah.
Did you have
good.
any questions about this?
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it already, but just to clarify, I see now you're using Slack to do this, but you can do this in other applications as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's really endless possibilities here. This could be Teams. So Microsoft Teams, you could have the same functionality, or this could be something, on your website, or it could be a custom UI that you build as well. Pretty much the process on the back end is the same, but the UI is interchangeable.
Yeah. And also about the data source. Now you're using Salesforce, but I assume this goes just as well with the Upsales or Microsoft Dynamics or any other database for that matter, right?
Yeah, I mean, this technology works really well with anything that's text based. So the data source could be really anything. Like you said, we're using Salesforce, but if you have a database full of information, you could use that as well.
Great. And what other use cases do you see using a chatbot like this? So can you give us maybe some more examples?
Yeah. So with the embedding model itself, like you saw the RFP, and then you saw this chatbot that's communicating with your data. So those two are really like big examples of using the embedding. But if you kind of like think about, what else you could do, there's something called RAG. It's retrieval augmented generation. Right now, all you saw is that we are actually pulling back the exact results from the database. You could also put, like a chat large language model at the very end of it. So it makes it like a seamless chat bot. This is actually pulling back factual results. But if you wanted to build more of a chat experience, you could extend this current functionality that we've shown today to do so. And there's a lot of different use cases in the embedding, but the two big ones are really, like the advanced. Actually, the main big one is the advanced search algorithm. It's doing advanced searches with text is really the biggest use case there.
Okay, thanks, Derek. So let's jump to the next use case, and that is unstructured to structured data. And I mean, today, documents, they usually have a set format. There might be an Excel spreadsheet. It could be a Word document. Some companies even have handwritten documents from which they need to extract data and so on. And I know that you have a way to structure unstructured data as well. So can you show us how that works?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to share my screen again. So, something we've been using these large language models for over the last year or so. And one of the most powerful things that we've seen, like ChatGPT excel at, is taking unstructured data and putting it into a structured format. So what does that mean? Like unstructured, that's essentially like documents, like very large documents just with a bunch of text. You would have to take that information, scan through it manually, and then do something with it. What we're going to be showing here is actually how we could use the large language model to automatically ingest a document such as a CSV, Excel, or PDF, and then transform it into a structured data that we could then do something with later on. So a good example, let me actually jump into our studio really quick. So this is our workflow designer within Decisions. You can see our toolbox on the left, and then this is like a process. So you get a little understanding of our visual no-code platform. But first, what I'm going to do is show you this document. So essentially, this is a document. There's a bunch of free text in here, right? really what the goal of this process is to take the document and take all the text out of it and transform this into a structured format that we could then do something with. So we could take the document, extract a couple items from it, and then be able to store that within a database automatically. So what I'm going to do is debug this within Decisions. You could debug a workflow and actually visually see what happens. So in here, the first piece is to upload the document. So what I'm going to do is select that file that we were just looking at. And what this process is going to do is essentially take the text directly from the document itself. It's going to run it through ChatGPT to try to actually pull out the details. So the document, this is a fire department that has billable actions. We're trying to extract those billable actions directly from the document so that we can then pass it into, or have like a visual format of what it would look like, so that we could then, push it into another system. So this process may take a second to run. It's doing a lot of work behind the scenes. Did you have any questions about this, Daniel?
No, this is more of maybe a general question. But what advice, would you give to organizations considering using AI to manage and structure their data? Are there any pitfalls they should avoid, for example?
Yeah, it's a very good question. With these large language models, like the biggest advice that I would give to an organization that's like trying to get into the AI area is start small. These models are very good at taking unstructured data and putting them into a structured format. So you can see that the job just finished for me. But my advice is start small. If you have a use case you're working on, try out different like simple examples until you get something working. A lot of this is trial and error. But once you actually craft like good prompts, these models work very well. So in this example, what we were doing is, here's the document on the left-hand side as we saw earlier. But essentially, we were asking questions to the ChatGPT model to extract these billable actions on the left-hand side. So you can see that it has done that. It was automatically able to take that text, we asked the questions, and it put it into a structured format. Again, these models are very good at doing this. So you can see there's 17 items for the fees, and then there's a couple resource items. So if you think about the process that this company has to go through, they have a dedicated resource that will manually take a look at this information and then plug it into a system. We've just completely automated that, and we're keeping the accuracy here. Before, someone has to manually type it in. That takes a lot of time. Imagine if you get hundreds of these a week, a month. That's a lot of time and resources, and that's prone to mistakes. By using a model like this, it's able to automatically do that, and that same resource could just spot check it. So time saving, there's a lot of accuracy, and then the person just has the ability to reference the information to almost streamline this process. So very cool. This stuff works very well too.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, and again, it's much about time saving, of course, as the other ones that you just showed us. Yeah, I think this is a good one. So maybe we should head on to the last use case for today, and this is actually my favorite one. It is the meeting summary, and again, for me as a salesperson, I have many back-to-back meetings. Sometimes I forget important things that were said during a meeting or a call, and I know that you at Decisions you can record your calls. You can also have them transcribed using this service called Gong. But it doesn't stop there. I mean, could you perhaps show me how you have implemented this with the use of AI, and also what kind of information that you can get out of it?
Yeah, of course, Daniel. Yeah, this is a very cool use case. This is something that we actually do like every single day here at Decisions, and we've really expanded it over the last couple months. So really what we're doing is trying to get, meeting transcript insights. So like you said, during our sales calls, we use a tool that records the call and then transcribes it. We use Gong. It's a revenue intelligence platform, but there's many other tools out there that could do this similar thing, such as like Zoom. I'm sure Teams does something around this area as well. A little background. This is kind of like what the overall process looks like. So again, we use Gong. So what we do is we have Decision that pulls the transcript from Gong, it stores it in the database, and then what we do is we pass in all that information to ChatGPT to capture insights, and then it will send an email notification after the call. So this happens anywhere between a couple minutes to maybe an hour post-call after the recording transcript has finished. And really what we're trying to do here is capture insights that happened during this call. So in our use case, it's more around sales, but this could be, project management calls where they're just trying to scope out a project, just slightly different insights, but the same concept. So here we're going to show 10 separate insights, and we'll go through each one as we look at it. So what I'm actually going to do is show you the end result. So this is actually the email that gets sent out post-call. But essentially, as you can see here, there's a bunch of information at the top. This is really just information about the meeting itself. And the goal is to capture those insights. So the first thing is really around just extracting the summary. What was this call about? What happened? It's a high-level summary. We've kind of updated this slightly just so we've removed any names. But the second piece is like the problem summary. What are they trying to solve by using our platform at Decisions? So we focus directly on the external people of the conversation, and we're able to do so by using Decisions. So the problem summary identifies what this potential prospect is trying to do within our platform. It's more like a use case. We then, do key takeaways, which is more of a bullet format of the two above items. So some people, it's a little easier to read. We then extract pain points that this person might be facing. So you can see that it was able to list a couple pain points and a description of why. Why is it a pain point for that prospect? Pricing. So this is like pricing conversations that were discussed. We kind of just nulled it out. If there was any next steps, and essentially when those next steps would come here. We do a sentiment analysis. So it was a negative, neutral, positive. Some of the main keywords used, any competitors. And then this also comes into play with the use case we saw earlier. So this is our use case chatbot. It's more of a recommendation engine here. We actually take what this person is trying to do. We run it against that use case bot, and then it's able to produce the closest customers related to that potential use case and prospect. So they, in a follow-up email, they could be like, hey, we got XYZ companies that do something very similar. Are you interested in learning more? And then the final thing, we take this problem summary and then we categorize it. So this kind of helps us collect insights about what people are trying to do with our platform. So we have, back office automation, it could be product, it could be our rules engine. So it helps us understand what this person is trying to accomplish. And then we also have a button here that would help the sales rep produce a follow-up email. So pretty cool. This thing is used every single day. We have hundreds of them, and it's probably the most popular use case that we've built thus far.
Yeah, and as I said, I think this is a very good way to work. I don't believe it's very common here in Sweden, at least. I mean, to record our calls could have something to do with the very strict GDPR regulations that we have here. I'm not sure. However, I think this is something that we need to start considering, because I think many will benefit greatly from a solution like this. I mean, to have everything from a meeting or a call neatly organized and compiled in the CRM would be fantastic, and of course extremely helpful for many people, I think. But I mean, privacy and compliance are obviously very important for companies today. So did you have any issues with that during this kind of implementation?
That's a good question. Like, especially with using ChatGPT, these large language models, there's always some type of like security concern. So, we've gone through and we've vetted the tool ourselves internally, and we're on a paid version. We're not enterprise users of ChatGPT. We just use their paid API. So the data that we actually send to these models are not going to train to be used in the future. They're SOC 2 Type 2 compliant. And for all the stuff that we do, we were comfortable with using ChatGPT and doing it through the large language model or as an API. But I mean, my advice for anyone that's looking to do this is to do your own research. Make sure that it's compliant with the stuff that you do. You can do BAA agreements, which is a business associate agreement with these large language models to further protect your data. So there are ways to go about it, but my biggest advice is to do your own research. We did ours, and we were comfortable with sending this information to the large language model.
Yeah. Interesting. So, yeah, thanks a lot, Derek, for the demonstration of all these very interesting use cases. It's been great. And I'm sure that many people are now beginning to start thinking about, how they can use AI in their own business. Today, we have looked at 4 use cases, but there are, of course, many more, of course. And I know that you have several recorded webinars at your webpage when you're sort of showing other use cases as well. So if you're interested, you can just click in on decisions.com and take a look there, of course. Just a few more questions to wrap this up. Are there any concerns or challenges that you foresee in implementing AI within an organization?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. So, the AI is a huge topic right now, and essentially everyone's trying to figure out a way of like implementing AI into their business. These large language models are great, but they're not always perfect. And in addition to that, they're not able to accomplish everything that a company's looking after. So, understanding where these models are very good and trying to maximize those capabilities is probably the best bet. But, the challenges and concerns essentially are, one, the security, right? Everyone has some type of security concern. So you mentioned earlier, it's really good to do your research and kind of vet that out. But two, when you try to go too big and try to do too much with these large language models, sometimes they don't perform great. So instead, maybe take a step back and kind of start small and slowly iterate on that. So I think, I don't know if these large language models are going to be able to solve every single AI use case, but I think that they will do pretty well with most. But those are probably some of the biggest challenges and concerns I see.
Yeah, I agree. And before we let you go, Derek, can you take just a moment to talk a bit about why Decisions is such a great platform to build this integrations with?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, like if you think about like trying to build all this stuff without using like a no code or a tool similar to Decisions, it would be very challenging. There's a lot of code you got to write. You got to do it in Python, maybe whatever alternative source. So by using decisions, it's helped us, integrate with all these tools super easily. We have all these pre-built steps within our toolbox. We have all these modules that can help almost seamlessly integrate with some of these providers that we use here internally. So we've been able to build out a lot of these use cases very quickly. Even that meeting summaries one, that was something that took a couple days. But if I did not have a tool such as decisions, I'm looking at a couple months. So it's really helped me internally come up with these use cases and build them out super quickly by using a tool like decisions.
Yeah, that's really cool. Thank you so much, Derek, for taking the time to speak with us today. And if our audience has any further questions or would like to know more, please feel free to reach out, of course. And once again, thank you for your time, Derek, and talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. I really appreciate your time as well.
Wow, spännande. Vilka intressanta use cases som Derek visade här precis.